Welcome back to Drift Garage. On the last episode, we... And so today we're gonna be... Where's Turk?
Right here, dude. Working.
Hey, man. What's up?
Doing my job.
Has he been there the whole time? There's a lot of companies that make aftermarket coilovers nowadays, and it's really easy to get your hands on a cheap set, so it almost makes it more difficult to know if yours are blown up or not.
They might show up blown.
They already start off so bad that you don't even really know when your shocks blow out. But the biggest thing, whether you have crappy suspension or a blown quality suspension, is the pogo stick effect.
Yeah.
It's definitely a hard feeling to describe, but it's essentially your car is constantly unweighting the tires, so you just feel the amount of grip that you have, especially in a drift car going through a corner, changing dramatically. So it's just, you're getting this sway in the car, and it's not actually pushing against the ground and giving you that grip, almost the opposite of what you think a shock should do, like hold the car up. But when you got a blown out shock and you're just bouncing on that spring, you're just losing traction left and right.
This car is owned by an idiot, so I mean, you would only assume that every shock on all four corners of this car are completely trashed.
Yeah, he probably showed up and was like, I'm gonna crank them all the way up and be super stiff, super drifter, and blew them out.
All right, hairy arm man. Well, what we have here is a BC Racing BR coilover, and this is what we're going to be running on Drift Idiot's car. This is a 30-way dampening adjustable shock. And this is the entry level for BC Racing's lineup of really nice custom coilovers. And you can also ask for different valving if you want something custom. Their off-the-shelf stuff has been tested for years, especially for the S13 and S14 chassis. So you know off the shelf you're going to get something of quality. And that is pretty well R&D to suit your needs on the track.
And the other cool thing about these coilovers is that even though he said they're entry level, they do come with Swift springs, which are very consistent and not just another old heated up coil that's gonna change rates on you throughout the year.
Exactly.
So obviously BC Racing's coilovers come built for each specific vehicle. These will bolt right onto this S chassis, but you still want to take into consideration where the bracket is in relation to the shock body and how tight the preload is on the spring. So yeah, I know we're making fun of the idiot for not knowing how to set up these coilovers, and it can
be really easy.
Yeah, it can be tricky though. There's a lot going on here. We're going to show you a couple quick, simple steps on how to set your car up. Now it's easy to hop online and figure out how to lower your car as low as possible, slam your camber to the max, and feel like you're ready for the track. But that's definitely not the case. And corner weighting your car is also far on the other end of the spectrum to make sure that your coilovers are set up perfectly, but that actually is what they're made for, and that's why they have all these adjustments, is so that you got to look at your car as if it's a table with a wobbly leg. And so these coilovers allow you to adjust each corner so that your car is sitting perfectly level so that it drives the same for left and right turns. If you have these in different places, or there's a little too much preload on one side, or you're just trying to get your stance sitting perfect, just using the ride height of the fenders and not the actual pressure on each corner, then that's where the car is going to be a little less drivable, and you're not going to wonder why you keep spinning out on the left-hander, but you feel good on the right-hander.
Yeah. Setting your ride height is actually a pretty broad thing. You can kind of almost set it wherever you want, but it's all relative to your suspension geometry, what steering kit you might have, bump steer, if anything's binding in your suspension system. So it's really,
it gets overlooked a lot.
It also helps with lowering your center of gravity is definitely a big part of it too. But finding that perfect spot takes a lot of, I think, testing and just drive time and understanding what you're feeling from the seat of your pants and making minute changes to find out what works best for you. I realize that's more of a very experienced kind of thing to do and something that's difficult. And I guess a general rule of thumb would be lower your car an inch and a half from stock, 2 inches maybe?
Yeah, because the biggest thing when you start to lower your car too much is, like we said, binding and other things, but also running out of shock travel. And that's going to ruin your day. So another quick tip when you're at the track is to either take your boots off for a day and or throw a zip tie on the actual piston of the shock and go
set
around
it all the way down
a couple times. Yep. Push it against the bottom of the shock body, like you said. Go around the track a couple times, jack it up, and see where that zip tie is. If it's all the way up in against the top hat, then you're riding way too low. And obviously the other aspect of the whole coilover is the dampening adjustment. And so I always recommend starting out in the middle because that gives you the adjustment up or down. You know, everyone has different weights on their cars. You're ordering spring rates sometimes just by the seat of your pants, and so you don't exactly know what dampening that the car will want and that the driver will want based off of the spring rate to the relation of the weight of the car. So every driver is going to adjust their dampening differently. I usually like a stiffer front end, you know, keeping that car nice and planted and steady through the corner. Some people like to go softer so the car rolls over and puts a little more weight on that lead tire.
That's me. I like a softer setup.
Yeah, I keep it stiff. So it's, but yeah, it's all in your preference, you know, and that's why I say start in the middle and play with it back and forth and see what works better for you.
Whatever's comfortable. All right, let's put these things in the car.
All right.
Done.
Every proper track car needs adjustable suspension, and we use Voodoo 13 control arms because they are made in the USA, they're billet, and they use some of the best Heim joints that money can buy. And now when you're setting up your front end, the one thing you want to make sure that you're doing is taking it to an alignment rack afterwards, because measuring caster is very difficult. But caster is very important for drifting because it is all the qualities of self-steering. The closer that you have your wheel to the front of the car, which means the shorter that this arm is going to give you faster self-steering, and it's a little easier to get through a corner. However, some drivers might like the overall feel of a more manual steering car, and so they'll actually extend this arm to push the wheel back, and that can also sometimes give you more steering angle because of the relation to the control arm to the steering rack. And the nice part about these Voodoo 13 arms is that they actually have this little notch in them so that your wheel can fold over and give you extra steering angle at full lock. A very common mistake that drivers make time and time again is you buy new coilovers as soon as you get your ride, slam it to the ground, and don't understand why your car doesn't drive well anymore. Well, that's because as you change the ride height of your car, your alignment changes as well. And your alignment is the camber, caster, and toe of the vehicle, which is the direction and or orientation of which your wheels are pointed on the car. Some people may like the look of that, but if you're going for performance driving, you want to make sure that not only are they even left to right, but that they're a little more vertical, because the more that your tires are cambered in, the less contact patch you have on the ground. And so what you should do is get an adjustable control arm so you can push the top of the hub out and get your wheel pointed back up and down and get your contact patch nice and even on the ground. The benefits of more contact patch is not just more grip, but it's also better tire wear, especially for drivers who are looking to get more life out of their tires. The more rubber that you have on the ground, the longer those tires are going to last. So whether your car is a positive 1 degree or negative 1 degree, as long as when you're coming off the track at the end of a run, and you're pulling your tires off to change them, if you have nice wear pattern, flat all the way across the tire, then you have your camber dialed in right. But if you're not a drifter and you're just a guy out having fun on the weekends and or going to track days and doing some grip driving, then I usually recommend about 1 degree, 1.5 degrees of negative camber, because as your car starts to lean in a corner, when you're cutting left, your car will physically lean to the right. So when the car's sitting static, it might look like it's sitting a little on the inside, but as you're cornering, you're actually putting that contact patch nice and flat and getting maximum grip in the corner. And lastly, we have the tow arm. And now what this does is it changes the direction of the tire in relation to the vehicle front to rear. So toe in is when the front of the tire is pointed inward. Toe out is when the front of the tire is pointed outwards. And that also changes the amount of grip that the rear of your car has dramatically. On a beginner, there are times when you almost want to recommend toe out because it helps the car to want to rotate in the corner, and as you're applying throttle, it keeps the rear end out. However, almost every driver runs toe in, and that's because it gives you more control of the car when the wheels are pointed inwards and wants to drive the car through the corner, and it helps put more traction on the rear under throttle. And a great tip for whenever you're installing custom control arms like this, you want to make sure to line them up to the factory length first before you put them in the car. And that gives you the stock range, and then you can always go inwards or outwards to get your alignment set just right. Now, whenever you're installing these arms, you always want to take into consideration the orientation of your eccentrics. If you're still running factory eccentrics, I always recommend to set them right in the middle, so that if you're at the track and you want to do a quick fix, instead of breaking loose these jam nuts and adjusting the actual control arm, you can hop under here and give it a quick flat, which is essentially one flat of the hex, so that you can feel the difference in your change of camber or toe, and you can always put it right back very quickly and easily if you don't like the change. Now, one last tip so you're not binding up all your bushings, I'll leave all these bolts loose until I get the hub mounted onto the coilover so it's closer to the ride height, and then cinch those down so that you're not just twisting those up and you're going to blow them out a little too quickly. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions about how to set up your car for the weekend,
or any questions at all, you know what to do. Leave them in the comments below. Also, we want to hear if you are form or function.
I'm both.
Are you?
I can do both. Yeah.
I feel like it depends on the car.
We'll see.